Go. All right, good morning, everybody. It is March 18th. We're at about 9:04 a.m., and we're going to call to order the Water and Hydroelectric Operations Committee meeting. Present in the boardroom, we have Director Beerwagen, Director Miller, Rem Scherzinger, Pam Robinson, Susan Lauer, Ian Summers, and Chip Close. With that, we will move on to public comment. And Danette, do we have any public in the annex?
There is no public in the annex.
All right, thank you very much. Guess we can leave that on. We'll move on then to the minutes for February 19th. Any concerns, questions, or comments?
None for me.
None, seeing none. Thank you very much. We'll approve the minutes, and we'll move on to item number 2, surplus water declaration. So deja vu a little bit on this topic, although things have changed a bit. So I put a few slides together so we can walk you through. What I'd like to mention is that in the staff report, when we developed the staff report on the 10th, things really didn't look great, and it hadn't really changed much since our February meeting. Since that time, obviously, the weather has moved in, things have greatly changed. So I've put together some slides that'll hopefully walk you through where we were and where we're at. So this was the information that's in your staff report, and what you can see is on the 10th, we only had 30 inches of precip, which was only 59% of average. As I move that through to what we see today, as of this morning, and this is not verified data, but it's pretty close. You can see we've had nearly 7 inches of precip at Bowman. And that has really bumped us up to 67% of average. And probably the better news than just the fact that it's rain is that it's snow. I'm really shocked that we're getting a snowpack this late in the season and this low. It's really rather impressive. As we move through the 8 to 14 day outlook, they show colder than average, which we're experiencing now, obviously. And the good news is they do continue to see a above average for precip moving forward. And then this here's the Weather Underground's 10-day forecast. So you can see on the very left-hand side of the chart is where we are today, and yes, we are experiencing some precip. That's looking forward to ramping back down, give us a little bit of a reprieve so we can get into some of our sites will be nice. And then it picks right back up again for next week, which is great. The good thing for next week is, as you can see, the temperatures there on the chart are fairly cold again, which means low snow. They're predicting the snow level to be about 4,000 to 5,000 feet, really? Which for us is good. I mean, 5,000 feet would be perfect, so we're looking forward to that. So this chart here, what you're going to see is this is the CDEC. This is the state's measurement of the snowpack in real time, or as real time as they can get. Again, not verified data, but it's pretty close. So the upper box is the northern Sierra, the middle box is the central Sierra, and the bottom box is the south. What you're going to see is that there's a blue line on that chart, a little bit hard to see, but the good thing is that the blue line on the middle chart is where we're at. It's right under that 2017 number in the chart.
So it mixes with the black line.
It mixes with the black. So what that indicates is that as far as snowpack goes, when you count this current storm, we have caught the 2017-2018 snowpack, which is impressive to make up that kind of ground in one storm. The other thing I'd like to point out is the red line at the bottom. You can see that was the 2014-2015 drought year, and you can see there was basically 0 snowpack. So we're doing much, much better than we were during those drought periods as far as the snowpack goes. Okay, moving on. This is just a random picture. This is at the Bear Valley House yesterday. So the folks are standing on the road and looking back towards the flume. So you can see there is a lot of snow there. It basically buried the fence, which is keying, what, about 6 feet?
It's sitting on top of the flume.
Yes, and then the snowbank in the foreground there is basically the bank next to the road. So there's quite a bit of snow. So again, this is our reservoir storage as of the 10th. So this is not the updated number. When you update that for today, you can see we bumped that to 211,000 acre feet. That's good. We're at a basically 75% or 95% of our 7-year average. The good news with this graph is that shows an increase, but all the precip we've got in the last few days has been snow. It hasn't even made it into our reservoirs yet. So we're still creeping up, and we're adding to our snowpack reservoir at the same time. So that's two positives in a row there. So looking much, much better. And this is old data. It was very bleak, but that when we run the April snow surveys here, hopefully on the 25th, this number will change greatly.
Red line is, what's your red line?
Red line is the average.
Oh,
So is it typical to be that big a difference on the green line, the green bar between Bowman and English Meadows, for instance? Is that sort of normal? I guess I don't know what my question is.
Yeah, so the red line is where we sit on average today. The blue line running across is where the historical average is.
Oh, okay.
So that's the difference we're talking about. Those lines should come much closer together when we run our April snow survey.
that'd be interesting to look at.
Now, this is our storage forecast as we run through the irrigation season for 2020. Keep in mind, this forecast that we ran was as of the 10th. It did not include any of the recent changes in the weather conditions or the precipitation. So even under the worst case scenario that DWR has put out, we still end the irrigation season, or we're forecasting to end the irrigation season right about average for carryover, which in staff's opinion is a good reason for the declaration of surplus. But being that the overall precip still is below average, we're going to change our messaging out to the public to be, hey, it still hasn't been a gangbuster precipitation year, so we are encouraging voluntary conservation wherever we can get it. And so that's going to be our efforts in messaging as we move forward into the summer months. Questions on any of that? I rode through it pretty quick, but
No, it's
things have changed quite a bit, so.
And the pause a month ago was not one of substance, but more of form. We'd had 6 weeks of zero.
yes.
Now we've got the distraction of the pandemic, and now we have precipitation. So as a matter of form, it's a little better to be declaring. I just think people would have actually noted it. It was so dry and
Yeah.
so beautiful that they would have tripped on, but now people are A, distracted, and B, they
Yeah.
can hear it. So it was never about form and substance. I mean, it was never about substance, but just the form of when. So, sorry.
I can appreciate that, and when you put this slide up there, it, at the time, it was a little bit scary. Look how flat that is, but looking forward to that really picking up. I do believe with what we're receiving today and what's in the next 10 days, we're going to pass probably hopefully the years that we had in the drought, the 2014, 2015 that you see up there. So, at any rate. So with that, the normal procedure for declaring surplus water is we come to the WHO committee. The WHO committee authorizes it. We then take it to the full board under a consent item just to provide them the information that the WHO committee has reviewed the data and agrees that this will be a surplus water year. And I do know that our external district customers will be very appreciative of this, and it also opens up the door to the districts, all options for the district as far as our water sales go for the rest of the year.
Right, so just so we're clear, this is within the power of the WHO is the declaration, so
Yes.
you guys declare, it's a done deal, all we do is inform.
You're more comfortable this time around?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
All right,
Absolutely.
very
Thank
good. Thank you for the support.
It's a good thing.
Yes. And I think Kean's got some more pictures in his update that he will be showing you guys as far as the snowpack goes and what we have run into. All right, is there any public comment?
There is no public comment.
All right, thank you, Danette. Okay,
Great.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Chip.
We will move on to a very quick Operations Department activities report. You guys have seen this at the board meeting, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, but basically because February was so dry, water usage has gone up a little bit. I would expect March to go back down under the average and conservation to return. So, distribution, basically at this point in time, we're just reeling from storm, damage at this point in time. The South Yuba Canal is out. PG&E is indicating they won't be able to fly it until Friday. So until that time, there's no water coming down the South Yuba Canal. There is a little bit of water in Deer Creek, a little bit of natural, but at this point in time, most of it's frozen. And so we're doing the best we can. We're utilizing the Loma Rica Reservoir, and we're firing up some pumps to keep all of our irrigation customers happy. Snow. The PG&E shut the system down due to the intense storm, and they can't turn it back on without patrolling it and seeing what's there. And I got to add to that that with 5 feet of snow in it, they're going to spend a lot of time pushing snow.
There's been no evidence, just routine.
Yeah, it's just full of snow.
Yeah, so in addition to...
Abundance of caution.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that because it had no water in it, they're going to have to push all that snow. It's going to take some time to get the water flowing again. It's not easy to push 5 foot of snow down a canal, but they're experienced at it, so we'll hope for the best.
And how much, how long do we have with Loma Rica for this time of year, under this condition?
So what we're going to do is we're going to use the natural in Deer Creek to feed the Snow Mountain Canal system, and then we're going to turn on the DS extension pumps, utilize the water from Lower Scotts Flat, and pump to the Chicago Park side. That'll preserve Loma Rica for a backup for the treatment plants.
Okay.
So we think we can manage just fine. It's going to cost a little bit more in pumping costs, but the good thing about using the DS extension is it's not a lot of lift, so the power costs are not extraordinary. So
Are there going to be impacts to the April 15th startup?
At this point, no, but time will tell. We are uncertain whether PG&E is going to move forward with their annual South Yuba Canal outage. They've already indicated they're going to push it off at least a week. If the weather continues like this, I imagine it will be pushed out even further.
You said this isn't the annual that we got a notice about. This was because it snowed.
That's correct,
Okay.
yes.
All
Yeah.
right, so we got both.
We got two things piling up against us at the same time, so.
Is Jim Gates irrigating today?
Naturally, yes.
Bad Scott.
So really, ultimately, the storm has taken up all of our time at the moment, but the guys were prepping for irrigation season and finishing up on some culverts and installations because the canals are all low due to off-season. The aquatic schedule was developed and mailed out to all of our customers. The good news, and I think you guys saw this in the board packet, was the Combi Phase 1 pipe is pretty much done. In fact, they're going to be pouring concrete, it's either today or tomorrow, to finish up all the seams and all the crossings. So things are looking really good there. We have an outage to tie the pipe back in and start flowing some water, I think, on the 24th, 25th. So that's going to be a great day. And our cross-connection group, they are continuing with their normal work.
Take for concrete to cure. You hate to have it,
7 days,
wet.
yeah.
but the ambient temperature,
You can put heat accelerants in it.
is that how they do it? Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just as valid?
Yeah, the good news is
That final joint was gonna need some
Yes.
closure.
the good news is fill in the pipe doesn't necessarily put pressure on the pipe because it's only going to run, a quarter full for this time. But the crossings would definitely be a concern with the heavy equipment rolling over that fresh concrete. So they'll need that good 7-day cure to make sure the strength is there. And I believe they do breaks daily when they get close to that margin to test the strength of the concrete. Water treatment, guys, 144 million gallons was produced in February. We continue to sample for cryptosporidium. That's one of the regulatory requirements. The good news is this is the second round of cryptosporidium sampling we have done, and all sites have now gone back down to the lowest bracket, basically meaning we're not detecting enough of it to require increased treatment. That's good. We're working on the silo removal at E. George, and we're going to take pictures of that, so Ren would be a happy man seeing that painted fake tree come down. We are doing the clear well inspections at Lake Wildwood. Long ravine work continues for the water system at the campground. Loma Rica cleaning is done and wrapping up, and then we're actively recruiting. We're down about 2 treatment plant operators, which, given the current COVID crisis, not a good time to be short-staffed, but we're working through it.
And on the van, where'd they go?
Retirement or elsewhere?
They went elsewhere. Yeah. kind of rare for that to happen, but 2 in a row, within a matter of months. It's interesting and it's unusual. Water resources, this is the busy water rights, reporting time. We're prepping all the data for our water rights. We have a new hydrographer coming on board next week. That's great. We'll finally be full staffed. Haven't been so for quite some time, about 6 months. And we're out there calibrating all the gauging stations, prepping for irrigation season. Customer service, the online bill pay is up and running, as you guys have already been informed. The good news is the orders to ask folks to stay at home as much as possible has really helped the online billing sign up a lot of customers. Just this last weekend we had a bunch, and we'll try to get you a true number of that and report it out in the future of how many. I know within the first 2 days we had 40 customers already, so it's impressive. Ag billing's been out there. Those of us that buy ag water, I'm sure have already seen it. And then we are working on the ERP and CMMS. Our electrical crews are busy retrofitting our turbidity meters as well as our chlorine analyzers, working on valves at Lake Wildwood, putting SCADA in at all the campgrounds, which is a really nice thing. We're going to be able to remotely see what's going on at the campgrounds in real time and better manage those systems. And then
With regards to
That's
the water system.
Tankage level, system pressure, pumps online.
treated,
Chlorine residual, yes, it's all treated. The treated water systems at the campgrounds, yes. It's hard knowing what's going on at those remote locations. We don't really have a pulse on it, and we don't always get the best communication back from the campers. So having SCADA in there will tell us real time. We can set alarms, and we'll know what's going on all the time. So it'll be a great upgrade. And then we're actively working on clarifier redundancy. There's a couple of locations where we have unique clarifiers, specifically Lake Wildwood. So we're investigating, looking at the mixer motors there. They're one-off, and should we lose one, we're out of luck. So Phil and his crew are out there seeing if they can find a backup for that. So that's good prep. New treated water accounts, nothing earth-shattering here. We had, 6 for the month of February. We continue to trickle on. New raw water sales, we had a pretty good spike in February. It was dry. It's funny how people react to the weather in real time, but that's what you got. Raw water sales changes, not a lot going on there. Scheduled treated water outages, we had a bunch in January, but February back down to nothing. And then emergency treated water outages, we had a whole 4 in the month of February, so not too bad. A little more than years past, but only by 1. It's not a big deal. It's funny how the scale changes your thought process on these charts. Raw water outages, this is that time of year where we do a lot of work on the canals, and it reflects in this graph. And again, we're tracking right in line with years past. Emergency raw water outages, I like throwing this up there because it's 2 years in a row now where we don't have anything to report. It's pretty impressive. And then that's it. The customer communications and tracking, unfortunately, we're a little short in IT, and the report has stopped functioning. So until we get some more help in IT and get that report up and running, I won't be able to give you this number, but I'm hopeful I'll be able to backdate it and then get you back to current. And that's all I got. Any questions from any of that? All right.
Oh, very good, thank you.
Any public comment, Danette?
No public comment.
All right, thank you.
I do have one operational question.
Yes, sir.
How do I get the microwave in this alcove to open?
I'm not
Hey, I don't have my
certified for
glasses,
that
but
piece
B,
of
how do you
equipment.
Open the damn door so I can get the top in.
That's
Serious.
important, that's important.
Hold on, Ken. Yeah.
All right, so a fairly brief update on my side of the house. It's been a little hectic here over these last couple of days, but I do have some pictures in the back, as Chip mentioned. So just starting off with our outage report. On the screen, it looks pretty darn good. We didn't have many outages, but then you realize that Dutch Flat number 2, Comby North, Comby South, and Scotts Flat were essentially offline for the entire month because there's no water out there. So, most of our work has been out at Bowman. We were fortunate that we had this dry weather and were able to get in and out of there. We've updated a bunch of relay settings and have been working on an islanding scheme out there, and so essentially what that means is that the powerhouse will run itself even when it's not connected to the grid, and that's hugely beneficial when the transmission line goes down. So that's and it has worked. These last couple of storms here have shown us that the islanding scheme works. The transmission line trips off, the powerhouse just kind of sits there and waits. And then we're able to go back out and start it up. So that's excellent news. I did also want to point out that we did have a 60 kV line relay, and we've had a couple of them here since. And the new equipment that we've installed to monitor the location of the trips is working fantastically. We've actually come across a spot in the line where it's about 3/10 of a mile from the intertie where we are consistently having a tripping problem. We believe that's in a large span across the river, so we believe what's happening is that in this storm, the lines got loaded with snow, they released, they slapped together, and then that trips the relays. So we'll be able to go out there during the outage, and we'll probably install some spacers on the line or recheck the tension out there. So we should be able to deal with a significant portion of the trips that we're seeing here recently at the next outage, which is fantastic news and shows that the equipment is absolutely functioning. So it's been a very worthwhile upgrade. Yes, sir.
So, you're accepting of this as a reasonable number with, the outages. And I know in the power purchase agreement, we're penalized robustly when we're down, tens of thousands of dollars an hour, so to speak. And I'm just seeing that this is 6 hours, 7 hours, and then the 58 minutes, okay, cool. How is that on an average? Now, I understand we have an outage, but for the whole system, I know it's one of your major concerns all the time. How do these numbers resonate for an average month, and/or are there peaks and valleys with the season and
So it's peaks and valleys with the storms is what puts us over the edge. These are planned outage hours here, and we get a certain allotment of planned outage hours every year.
Within the contract?
Within the contract.
Okay.
And I can't quote that number, but we're still within that number in these facilities. So these are paid for, essentially. They're excused.
Have we had any months or days when we've had a catastrophic, financially painful outage in the last, we've been doing this now a couple of years?
So the most significant one was at the Dutch Flat number 2 powerhouse. We had a couple of years back where we lost the piggyback transformer on the main transformer, and we're down for several weeks. I don't recall the number off the top of my head what the cost was, but it was several $100,000 that we lost during that time.
And that was that one. And then when the fires, there was a fire that whipped through at one point up in the canyon. Yeah. That was act of God and/or?
We generated during that time. Actually,
Really?
They wanted us to keep the water in the canal and keep things moving so the firefighters could use the water.
Sure.
So we staffed the powerhouse at that time. We wanted to make sure that it stayed online.
Nothing tripped off because of all that. Wow.
Yeah, we were able to generate, or at least keep the unit online.
So we've danced it fairly lightly without cracking the ice on any of these outages for the most part.
Yeah,
we've done a pretty good job.
The unit has routinely come in over 98% easily.
Okay.
Yeah, I
No, I didn't think we did, but I was just curious, so.
Yeah.
It's not an average, it's these other caveats of how it's languaged in the contract. So, like you say, this is sort of within a window of acceptance.
Yeah, I can start bringing the availability numbers. That's what the power purchase agreement all boils down to.
Okay.
So I can start bringing those in routinely, because even if you see an outage up here, that doesn't mean that it cost us money. The 60 kV line relay there cost us money when we're
1 hour.
forced out. Yeah, the 1 hour. The other ones being planned outages and being in remaining outage hours, we guard our outage hours very carefully.
Well, I'm not asking necessarily, it's more, this is nice to look at it 3 years in and have a, to do it day to day. I respect your management skills and ability.
I can bring in the statistics and start briefing the committee.
But if it's no big deal, okay.
That would be great. And planned outages, to get this straight, is
In concert with
saying that we expect to have some outages. We're not planning an outage. We're not planning for, but we have to plan for normal.
We give
outage.
PG&E 2 weeks of notice. They schedule us out of the Cal ISO market. and then we,
For planned, so these
For
are
planned
planned, you're
outages.
gonna turn it off. Okay, I'm
Yep.
talking about the normal everyday goes off on its own.
if it trips off on its own, if we have an incident where the 60 kV line relays, or we get a stick and break a shear
Okay,
pin, then
all right.
those are forced outages that cost us
Okay,
money.
all right.
So,
So the planned ones are in the normal amount of, okay,
Our normal business.
it's normal business.
so far, I mean, like I said, we get a certain number a year, and we have gone over the number, and we have a long outage every now and then. But to date, for this year, and the year ends at the end of June, we're within our outage
Oh,
hours,
good.
so,
Great.
yeah. Okay, some of the key performance indicators I've been reporting on lately here, again, we don't have a whole lot of data. We need a couple of years worth of data to see how this shakes out. But this is, our weekly dam inspection numbers went down. I expect that in the winter it gets a whole lot harder to get to these upper division reservoirs, so we just don't get there as much. We get out there at least once a month. We'll fly in if we have to, just to make sure, but I expect that number to go down. We're doing extremely well on our linear facilities. You can see we didn't end we didn't end last year particularly well, so we've really been focusing on that. This is our transmission lines. This is our Bowman-Spalding Canal. This is the South Yuba Canal. We're making a point of patrolling it, and then the Dutch Flat and Chicago Park flumes. We're getting out there much more, trying to keep eyes on it and do work out there. Our daily powerhouse inspections, this seems to be about an average number for us, this 80 to 90%. That is largely, the lower number is driven by Bowman. We don't get out there every day in the winter. But Chicago Park, Dutch Flat number 2, Rollins, and the local stuff we'll make a point of getting into every day. So, in terms of what we're doing, here in the last month, we've had our 6-month NERC battery inspections. Everything came out well there, which is good news, as those battery banks can be fairly expensive to replace. We did this fire suppression system testing at the Chicago Park Powerhouse. We had to make sure that the system out there, the pieces that we were saving, are all functional and that they worked. We've been doing a lot of work in the lower division on brushing. Again, I talked a little bit about the relay settings out there at Bowman to make sure it would respond properly in Island. And then we've been really trying to pour work into the CMMS system out there, building the hierarchies and developing the workflows. It's totally unexpected, but we started our annual spillway maintenance, which is unheard of. It goes back to that dry February. So we were able to get a lot of spillway work in on the lower division, which is nice. And then we've got a significant amount of work going on in the Deer Creek Powerhouse. We've got a significant communication upgrade that has to happen out there before we can absorb that into our system. So the guys have been building that rack and starting to pull all that together. On the admin side, Division of Safety of Dams came out and inspected some of the lower division dams. They hadn't done that this year and had to squeeze that in. We've been doing a tremendous amount of work on the Combie South Powerhouse, getting that ready to transition off of the PPA with PG&E onto the PPA with NCPA. There's far more work than you might expect to just simply transition who's paying you for your power purchase agreement. NERC has changed some of the rules, and so we have a CFR that's a coordinated functional registration with PG&E. So whenever NERC changes the rules, we have to meet with PG&E and agree on who's going to deal with what. I believe this round all of them landed on PG&E. We submitted our geologic report covering the bedrock joints and contact strength for the Bowman South Arch Dam. This is where DAR makes his money, is on this report and making sure that these numbers are precise. These are essentially the assumptions that go into the model. So we need to have absolutely the best data in there that we can, and then there are just rounds and rounds of discussion with DSOD and the other experts on what numbers we'll use to model the stability moving forward. So we'll see how that shakes out. We also had our NERC, that's a ROC, the Reliability Oversight Compliance Committee meeting. That's just a quarterly meeting where we get together and discuss our compliance activities and report out. And then CalISO has put a pretty heavy data request on us it was Chicago Park and then Dutch Flat. And then it'll roll through all of the other powerhouses. They're updating their grid-wide model, and so they need all the new parameters out of us. This requires specialty consulting work to come in and get. You have to hire these guys, build the model, and then we ship it off to CalISO. And it's running about $20,000 a powerhouse to develop this modeling data. And like I said, that'll roll through all of our other powerhouses. We're also working to up our corrosion control game. So we brought in a corrosion control engineer. They're having a look at all of our facilities, and they're going to write us kind of a gap analysis findings sort of report on what we should be doing with our corrosion control on our large penstocks and other pipelines in the system, in the hydro system. So with that, I'll get to a couple of the pictures. So on the left-hand side here, well, these are both the Texas Creek diversion. The left-hand side is when they got there. You can kind of see the white. It's kind of hard not to have a pointer here. The walkway on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, you can see after hours of shoveling, they cleared the walkway and were able to make access and then clean the rack in there. There's a pretty good-sized trash rack that requires a fair amount of maintenance. This is the Dutch Flat powerhouse, and you can see that, fortunately, right there, that's a PG&E pole that is about to fall over. But we've lost our 12 kV service line into the powerhouse there. PG&E had some pretty significant damages as a result of this storm. They lost their 12 kV line, and then the 115 kV transmission line also was damaged, which put us in the black. We had to get a generator out there, restarted our unit, and are again generating, but this will be an interesting month to see how all of this shakes out. So that
Ken, do you have you're part of the PSPS getting gensets positioned at our powerhouse permanents, right?
We are. Well, so yes and no. We're not permanently mounting at most cases. We've gone through, we've evaluated where we need to mount them permanently, and then we've decided in a couple instances a portable makes more sense, but we have the landing lugs that are being installed so we can land our new portable generator there. So, yeah. All right, and just a couple more snow pictures here. So we had to send both cats out to patrol the line, and this is just a great scenery picture on the left. They were a little bit stuck. Grant here on the right-hand side stepped out of the snowcat to help get them out and just kind of disappeared into the snow there. So there is a tremendous amount of new snow out there. And then this last one is we're having some problems with the comm lines on our Dutch Flat flume. The roads are inaccessible, so the guys are snowshoeing out there. You can see that's Pat, and he is in the neighborhood of, he's well above the 6-foot height, and that's an 8 to 10 foot wall that he's standing next to. So there is a tremendous amount of snow in the Drum Afterbay area here is roughly where they are. So the guys are snowshoeing in for miles to chase these comm lines to make sure that we can see the status of the water in the canal there. So, and that concludes my report.
All right.
Are there any, I guess, questions from the public?
No questions here.
All right.
Thank you, Ken.
Close it.
Very good.
So this thing is in the feed, not the tablet itself, not in the monitor.
Right, it's not,
This one keeps glitching out, so I thought I'd switch it.
With that, we'll go
All right,
ahead and
continues to be
close the
weird.
committee
Yeah.
for today. Thank you. Thanks, Annette.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chip.